UCLA is coming to Allegiant Stadium to go up against Dan Mullen and the UNLV football team. This is the biggest home game and the true start of the Dan Mullen era. Let's break down for you this matchup and tell you who's going to win. This is the Let's Run podcast. Folks, welcome to the show. Grateful to have you. Lots of fun stuff going on right now. It's a great time to be a UNLV fan. Please, while you are here, whether you're a UNLV fan, UCLA fan, wherever you are, please like this video. Please subscribe to the channel. So much fun stuff going on right now, and I cannot wait. Saturday cannot come fast enough as UNLV will be going up against UCLA. UCLA coming off of a really tough loss to Utah. UNLV coming off of a much better Week 2 performance against Sam Houston. There are still a ton of questions about this UNLV football team, specifically the defense. You know, it was pretty leaky even at times last week, and especially in that Week 0 performance, but we did see a lot of improvement. And so what I wanted to do for you today was give you a few keys of the game. What should we expect, and what would it take for a UNLV victory here? Key number 1, keep the ball in front of you. Keep those huge 60, 70-yard plays from happening. If you give up a 15-yard play, a 10-yard play, that sucks, but it's not the end of the world. Keep the ball in front of you. And oftentimes with our coverages, guys are kind of left out on islands. I hope that we give, especially this UCLA team, while they may be struggling a bit right now, there's still a lot of talent on that roster. Some of these receivers could get through, and you could see blown coverages and guys pretty open downfield. Try and prevent that. Really try and keep that ball in front of you, especially the safeties. Don't commit to plays too soon. Be quick, but also be careful and be attentive to detail when you're doing your coverages. Key number 2, give the ball to Jet Thomas. He is currently the nation's leading rusher, and he's only done that on 20 carries on the season. Let's do 25, 30 carries in this game. Let's give him a chance to dominate this UCLA team on the ground. This UCLA team is not a great run defense. Now, I think Utah is probably a better offense has more talent on the offensive side of the ball than UNLV. But that does not mean that UNLV doesn't have opportunities to run the dang ball. I think some possession, so keeping possession, keeping our defense off the field, unless necessary, obviously, is going to be key to keeping the defense fresh enough to make the stops when needed. And my last key would be win the turnover battle. UNLV has been opportunistic on getting turnovers, and ultimately I think that there's a lot of opportunity for Nico to maybe throw the ball into some rough coverages. Nico Iamavalea, Nico Imalivia, as people like to call him. And UNLV, Calandria, and Alex Orji, don't fumble the ball into the end zone. Calandria, don't throw into triple coverage. I mean, we have to win the turnover battle in this game. With those 3 keys to victory, UNLV can win this game. And I want to take you to my conversation with Zach from the Locked On UCLA podcast, where we break all this down in detail. You get to hear a little bit from a UCLA person, a little bit from me. Let's jump to that conversation, and hopefully we pull this game out. Let's see what Zach had to say on Locked On UCLA.
Moving the game forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Welcome back, everydayers. We're talking UCLA, UNLV in this crossover, Locked On UCLA, and let's run. And maybe we're going to run up the score. We'll see how it goes. Welcome, Jason. Thanks for taking time out of your day.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This is a huge game. It's a huge game for both teams. It can be a tone setter, kind of wash that nasty taste out of their mouth for UCLA last week against Utah, and it can be an establishing of the Dan Mullen era at UNLV. So I'm pretty pumped, man. This is going to be awesome.
This is a game that people, beyond the Utah game, was looking as a slip up for UCLA, because you bring in Dan Mullen as much as UNLV was contending for a playoff last year. 1 or 2 opportunities against Boise State go their way. It could be a different season. We're not hearing about JIT. We're hearing about UNLV in 2024. And then you bring in Dan Mullen. So it's not exactly a rebuild type of situation, but what's this UNLV team look like in the first couple of weeks in Week 0 and Week 1 to lead them to his 2-0 start?
Yeah, so week 0 was a really disappointing performance. We played a not so great FCS team, although that FCS team they did play really well in that game. They deserve credit for how they played. Obviously, though, they went on to lose next week to SUU, so it's not like they were some world beater FCS team. Although they didn't have a quarterback in that game, but in that first game against UNLV, for UNLV at home, it was disappointing. The crowd was a little muted. It was a week 0 game that had been rescheduled. So I think that there was just kind of a weird energy about the whole thing. UCLA was always supposed to be our home opener, and the defense was really disappointing. The pass defense was disappointing. The run defense was disappointing. The guys were timid, and so a lot of that's week 0 rust. I don't know if that any team actually has a good performance in week 0. I think pretty much everybody sucks in week 0, and we were no exception.
Unless you're in Ireland and you're playing football across the
That was
world.
messy, though. I mean, that was a messy game. There's fumbles, there's weird stuff going on in that one. So then in week 2, a lot of the issues that we saw, they're still there, but they were definitely a lot more detail oriented in that win at Sam Houston, which that's not a good team. Sam Houston, they have some talent, but they lost a lot from last season, and UNLV showed improvement in basically every side of the ball and every part of the game. But we remain having some serious defensive question marks. But I do think that we're a very good offensive team. Our quarterback situation is excellent. We've got good receivers. We've got an awesome running back in Jet Thomas. And so, I think we're going to be able to score. Whether we'll be able to stop anybody is the question. But I think this is a good team. I don't know if it's a great team, but I think it's a good team.
Do you think it's close to the caliber of a team that UNLV put out last year, which was truly competing for the playoff, or is it good but not great?
Well, I said, I don't think that we're a college football playoff contender this season. That doesn't mean it's impossible. If you play the season 100 times, maybe we're a college football playoff contender a small number of times or something, 5 or 6 or whatever. But I think that last year's team defensively, guys like Jackson Woodard and guys on the offensive side of the ball like Ricky White. And then I just think, we just had a more balanced overall team. But last season, we didn't have a great quarterback situation. Now, I shouldn't be too harsh on Hodge Malik Williams, our quarterback from last season. But I actually like our quarterback situation more between Alex Orji and Anthony Calandria this season. But I just don't think that, we had 55 new players. We only had 2 returning starters, one on offense and one on defense, which was the fewest in all of the FBS. And I just think there's too many moving parts. I worry a little bit about our size on the lines, not necessarily like weight, but just strength and power. And so I don't think we're as good as we were last season, but last season's team was really a couple of plays away from being, 12-0. I mean, we lost a game to Syracuse in ridiculous fashion. Some bad calls went against us. That was like a crazy, I think it was double overtime or single overtime. And then obviously we lost those games to Boise. The one in Vegas, was a close game that could have gone either way. Genty was really tough. And I think you see how Boise is played without him. That just shows how good he was. And I think Boise will be fine too, by the way. And I think they're still going to be a good team. But certainly this UNLV team has a ways to go. This is a big test for us. There's a lot of talent on this UCLA team, even if they're not quite cohesive right now. And I think this is a great opportunity to figure out exactly who this Rebel team is, because I still feel like I don't really know. I'd love to say, oh, they're great. I feel like they're good, but not great. But I just don't know yet, because I don't feel like we've gotten a full indication of who this team really is.
And it's funny, you look everywhere and you read that UCLA is the worst team that's ever existed. And Nico is probably the biggest loser in terms of what he made in the transfer portal, what happened, how it's turned out with UCLA. And of course, yes, there's reason for criticism with the way UCLA's held it in the offseason. Deshaun Foster closing practice saying we're close. And I'm not sure that a win over UCLA is going to calm anything down. But you look at UNLV's numbers. Offensively, it looks like a terrible matchup for UCLA after what Utah just did to the Bruins. But on the defensive side for UNLV, it looks like this could be very much a big game for Nico. Do you think that this is a big game? I know that, are they taking shots at Nico? What's going on over there in the UNLV defensive side of camp?
So the quote by Amaris Brown, I do feel like it was a little over exaggerated, and for good reason. I mean, this is sports. You're supposed to do that kind of thing. And if you give somebody else an inch, they're going to take a mile. And I do feel like he gave, UCLA fans or the media kind of an inch about Nico, saying that he wasn't really impressed with him as a player.
Nobody really was after week 1.
And he's probably the biggest punching bag, one of the biggest. I mean, outside, I guess Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson maybe are taking over that spot right now. But Nico's been, Nico. I've heard Nico, I'm Olivia. Like those jokes about him. When in reality, I mean, he's still a talented player, and I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he got some bad advice maybe about the whole Tennessee thing. But he's still really talented, and UNLV's roster is full of previous 5-star players and 4-star players that were playing at bigger schools that couldn't really get time. And not that Nico obviously got time at Tennessee, but I feel like we have a lot of the same types of archetypes of players, of guys that like didn't do maybe didn't leave great in their previous spot and are now at a new spot. And so I think the quote about Nico is a little overblown, but if you look at our coaches, what our coaches have said about him, they're like, he's a great player, he's fantastically talented. It was one player who made a comment. He gave UCLA some ammunition, and that's just the way it goes. If you have a player that says something like that, you're going to give him ammunition, and you have to live with the results. So I'm not overly, worried about that specific part of this matchup. But certainly, Nico's a good player, man. Like I don't know what I watched him in Tennessee last year. He's not perfect, but like no quarterback is perfect. And if you think that he was the problem, because I'm actually a BYU graduate, I'm a big Utah person. I'm from Las Vegas, born and raised a Rebel fan. So but I do like the Utes quite a bit. And so I watched that game very intently, not just because UNLV was going to play UCLA next. If you think Nico was the only problem, I mean, like there was a lot of problems.
It was not the only problem, for sure.
Yeah. And the Utes are just dang good, man. Like it's like the Utes are awesome. They're probably, besides BYU, TCU, there's a few teams in the Big 12, but I have no problem saying the Utes are probably, as of right now, the best team in the Big 12. And the Big 12 is a good conference. So, I can't say that I think that a lot of it was just Utah being a really good team.
The big mismatch for UCLA, though, is the fact that Utah ran all over them. So far with Calandria commanding the offense, what they have in the backfield for UNLV, they've run over their opponents. Now, UCLA is no Sam Houston State. They are no Idaho State. As much as they look like it week one, do you expect that same type of dominance, despite any reservations about the O-line, against UCLA's defense week two?
The best asset that we have is Jet Thomas, our running back. He is, in my opinion, I think he's the best Mountain West running back, one of the better G5, if not, I think he could be the best G5 running back. He's an extraordinary talent, and he can create, kind of like we saw Ashton Genty do, not to that level, obviously, but kind of like we saw Ashton Genty do last year. He can create big run plays out of nothing. And independent of the offensive line, even sometimes. I mean, he can just be that good of a player that he explodes downfield, and he's fast. I mean, he's got a great name, Jet Thomas, And so I think UNLV could absolutely run decently well against UCLA. I think this is a shootout. I think both teams are going to have a lot of yards of offense. That's my personal opinion. I mean, and you never know what's going to happen, but I think UNLV will be able to rack up yards against UCLA. How many points? I mean, I really don't know. I don't even know what the over is right now. The over under is for total
you just take
scored.
the over. Anybody should take the over in this game.
I would probably, yeah.
And the funny thing is, UCLA also has a running back named Jet Thomas, so that will be fun. Yeah, Javian Thomas goes by Jet, so and he's
even
Jet.
Know that.
He doesn't go by Jet Thomas; he goes by Jet. But that's the funny coincidence. But what isn't a coincidence is how important this game is to UCLA and UNLV as a whole. What's it looking like for a Big Ten program trying to rebuild and a Mountain West program that's more than just on the rise, trying to stay there? We'll talk about that with more predictions and keys next on Locked On UCLA. Hey, UCLA fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play Store right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make this up to $300 a year back from just buying the gas you already needed. And I thought this was too good to be true. It's totally legit. Plus, you can cash at any time to your bank account, PayPal, or e-gift card for Amazon or other brands. Don't let this offer drive by. Download the free Upside app right now by using the promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's the promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. This is Mazda's Moving the Game Forward, brought to you by those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it, because these moments do more than win. They push what's possible, and they remind us to go that extra yard, shift into extra gear, and keep moving the game forward. And how did UCLA do that? Well, there were still solid moments between Nico hitting Anthony Woods, the special teams looking absolutely dynamic. There were pieces of the game where the Bruins moved forward a lot more than what they did in 2024, and we're going to see it soon with UCLA in 2025 in week 2, and that's what you're going to see with Mazda. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Diving right into it, segment 2, Zach with Jason Kelly. Let's run. It's not Let's Run It. His podcast is Let's Run, but we're running it right now, talking UCLA and UNLV. I was there for the Summer League this summer, about a month ago, in late July, near the end of the Summer League run. Was at the Thomas and Mack Center, was at Cox Pavilion, and everywhere there are posters about UCLA playing UNLV football in week 2. Talk about the importance for what is a must-win for UCLA. How about it is it for UNLV?
Yeah, I mean, it's every game's a must-win, in college football, unless you're, it's a bye game and you're going to, number 1 Texas. I feel like in those circumstances, or you're an FCS team traveling to an FBS team, every game feels like a must-win that you can win. Obviously, I think that this is a game that UNLV can win. And the school knows it. Dan Mullen, the head coach, he had 100 and I think he was like 110 and 60 as a head coach in the SEC, multiple New Year's Six Bowls. He was actually, when the college football playoff rankings were released way back in the day, when he was at Mississippi State, he earned the first ever number 1 ranking as the head coach at Mississippi State in the college football playoff ranking. So he's definitely understands, the size and magnitude of this game. We're really trying to sell out Allegiant. I mean, we're not going to sell it out. It's a 65,000 seat arena, and it's just our program isn't quite there yet. But the school has marketed this game up the wazoo, which is why we're so grateful we didn't lose to Idaho State. Goodness, because man, if we had lost that, it'd have been so deflating. This game is huge. It's a marketing opportunity. They're trying to get over 50,000 people in Allegiance, 45 maybe, and ultimately, I think this will be kind of the tone setter for the first year, definitely, and maybe even beyond, of the Dan Mullen era. When we brought in Dan Mullen, we made him the highest, I think he's the highest paid G5 coach. There might be one that's close to how much he makes. The school has invested a ton. There's a lot of things going on between the old Pac, the new Pac-12, and the Mountain West, and I just think this is a tone-setting type game. Are we going to win a winnable game against a brand name opponent in UCLA, which UCLA, say what you want about them, they're one of the brands of college football. They play in the Rose Bowl. They have find a school with a better history than UCLA, basketball and football. And so regardless of what you think about that week 1 performance against Utah, this game's huge in Vegas. And the school knows it, the player knows it, the coaches know it. And I wouldn't say if they lose, it will derail the season and make us all of a sudden like completely a useless program or anything. But it certainly would be a downer. And the team would have to build back trust, because they're really trying to sell this game as the Dan Mullen game and the Dan Mullen experience in his first season at UNLV.
Well, it might be an experience. I'm thinking, a lot of points. You might need to push that over close to 80. I'm thinking that crazy right now. But what are you thinking are a couple of keys for whoever wins? What's the key? What's the reason for the win? Normally, for what I've seen the first couple of weeks from UNLV, it's dominate, pounding the rock, and forcing turnovers, even if they're giving up big plays, big touchdown scores. Normally, it's been turnovers and running the rock. What are your keys for this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's keep the ball in front of you. It's do not, you're going to allow chunk plays. You're going to allow explosive plays. That's going to happen. UCLA is going to have Nico's going to have a great throw downfield. UCLA is going to break a touchdown for 74 yards in the run game. That's going to happen. All you have to do is prevent as many of those as possible by keeping the ball in front of you and force a turnover. I mean, that's been the formula so far for this UNLV defense. And it's been leaky. I would say, you talk about Titanic. I don't know if we're at the point of critical mass. We haven't lost a game yet. But as long as they can keep the ball in front of them and force a turnover or two, they'll have a chance, which isn't always relying on forced turnovers is not a super sustainable way to win as a defense. And so, I think that we're very vulnerable here in this game. And then on the offensive side, it's, run what works, man. We got a great running back in Jet Thomas, but he's, Dan Mullen's been using the other running backs, Jalen Glover, a player from Utah, Kevon Lee, a player from Penn State. Run Jet Thomas, man. Give him 20 carries. He's only gotten like 11 and 9 carries in his first 2 games, and he's got 160 and 140 yards in his first 2 games with that few number of carries. Run our dang best players. And then the last thing that I would say is it's Calandria. Don't throw a pick, man. Like, don't throw a pick. He threw a pick against Sam Houston, and he in his time he was the starter at Virginia for 2 seasons. He was kind of a gunslinger who threw a lot of picks, threw a lot of touchdowns. Play within yourself. And then I guess I would throw in at the very end, Alex Orji. You're going to be in our, we bring in Alex Orji, our 6'3", 260-pound pure muscle behemoth in the red zone. We'll run like wildcat plays with him, some shotgun stuff, and let him just try and barrel his way into the end zone. Don't fumble, because he did that against Idaho State. Those are really the biggest keys for UNLV. It's just keep the ball in front of you, try and force a turnover, don't turn the ball over, and do what works, because we've got an offense, I think, that will work. Whether it'll be enough to win, I guess we'll see.
We'll find out. I was saying in a podcast in an episode just the other day, UCLA needs 31 points. They need Nico to put up close to 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and just dominate, put up 400 yards of offense. Do you think that's reasonable? After what you watched UCLA do against Utah, is that a reasonable thing to think of when it comes to this UCLA offense come Saturday against UNLV?
Well, it could be. I mean, it's tough to watch that Utah game and say, oh, they're just gonna put up 400 yards. They're gonna do this. They're gonna do that. That doesn't mean they can't do it. In fact, I think they can, and I think they probably will do some version of that, to be honest. But it's just tough to say definitive statements after that performance. And again, I think it's tough to say definitive statements about UNLV's defense. It's shown a lot of holes. I think the only thing that I feel comfortable with is this offense. I feel like we're going to be able to score. Not that we're going to be perfect, but I feel like we're going to be able to score, and therefore I feel like this will be a competitive game. And I'm looking forward to. I hope it's a good game. I mean, I'd love UNLV to win in a blowout, obviously, but with our defense, I don't see that happening. And I think UCLA absolutely can score, whether it's 400 yards, perfect offense, 3 touchdowns, no picks. I don't know if it'll be that clean. But they certainly can put up a lot of points. I wouldn't be surprised to see both teams over 30 points or 35 points easily, to be honest with you.
So with that in mind, what would you say your prediction is? Winner kind of score, both seeming like it's the over. I'll kind of tease mine going to the third segment before we let you go. Tell me who wins, why, and score.
Yeah, so I picked UCLA in this game in the preseason. And, despite UNLV being 2-0, I think we're a little shaky. I'm going to stick with it. Not that I feel great about it. I feel like it's a 55-45% chance for either team, in my humble opinion. And again, you never know what's going to happen. I'm going to give UCLA a field goal win, 34-31. Again, I don't really care about like the specific number of the score. I think UCLA wins by 3 in a decently high scoring game. It could be, 37-34. I don't know exactly what the number is going to be, but that's how I feel. A lot of Rebel fans are feeling very confident about this. And I think, why not? Why not be confident? Why not go in and say, we're going to win this game, man? Why not go to win? This UCLA team is gettable. And I think the biggest thing for me, I would say, is that, you look at the rest of UCLA's schedule, you have the New Mexico game coming up. I think the UCLA coaches and players are going to recognize that if they want to have a good season, this is not the type of game they can lose. If they want to have an okay season, this is not the type of game that they can lose. And so I think you're going to see an increased level of preparation and just kind of, care from the UCLA side in this. And you're going to see it from UNLV too. But I predict a very close, maybe as time expires, UCLA field goal win over UNLV as of right now. And I'm not going to change. Actually, I'm not going to change my opinion. That's what I'm going to stick with through all of my previews too.
And the funny thing is, if UCLA loses, this is a lose your job type of loss. Maybe not this early in the season, but this could steal your fate. Even this early in season 2 for Deshaun Foster, as much as he deserves more time, this is that type of loss. You string these 2 losses back to back. If it's ugly, whatever it is, this is a terrible, terrible one if they lose it. But it seems like we're confident it'll be exciting, down to the wire, and I'm going to tell y'all my thoughts next. Are they similar to Jason's? I think they might be, but where do we differ? I'll tell them next. And Jason, thanks for coming on. And Let's Run. That's his podcast. Go check it out.
Thank you. Appreciate you, man.
My apologies. That was my appearance on Locked On UCLA. I did pick UCLA to win this game. I'm going to stick by that prediction. I do feel like it's kind of a 50-50 type game. UNLV's defense is very vulnerable. UCLA is very vulnerable. These are two imperfect teams that we don't have full or perfect information on yet. But I am really excited to be back at Allegiant with all of you. I hope that you will reach out to me if you're at the game. To come, I'd love to come say hi to you at your tailgate. I'd love to come say hi to you any part of the stadium. Please shoot me a direct message over Twitter. You can email me as well if you want me to meet you somewhere. I would love to talk to you, man. You guys are the Rebel fans are the lifeblood of this podcast, and most importantly, they're the lifeblood of this team and this program. So this is a huge one, guys. I cannot wait to be there on Saturday with you all. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you Saturday. Let's run.